Hello, everybody. This is Catholic Dad, episode number 99, personal experience with abortion. And by the way, happy St. Patrick's Day, everybody. Got my Guinness tea on. Let's see. So, my personal experience with abortion. I was a resident on call for radiology. Back in residency. I get a phone call because I had to field all the phone calls for University Hospital, and it was the operating room saying they needed ultrasound immediately in the operating room. And so I'm not used to this, and then so I asked what for. I have to call a tech in, so the OBGYN got on the phone and said, I have a young woman hemorrhaging to death. She was a transfer in. She just had a termination of pregnancy late term, and she's bleeding to death, and I need to see if there's any retained skull fragments or bones that are poking into the uterus, the uterine wall, and so therefore I need ultrasound. And so I was kind of horrified by it, but my job is to save people and help people in need, and that includes women that are hemorrhaging to death after a termination of pregnancy. And so I call my tech in, and we go up together, and she was aligned similar to me on the issues of life and abortion and termination of pregnancies. And so I think we were looking kind of foul-faced when we went in. We did say some prayers, and then we walked into the operating room, and we scanned. So we scanned the uterus. We didn't see any retained bones. No fragments of fetus were left, and so the lady thanked us, and I guess she could see our faces were a little bit horrified in some ways, but she said, I didn't do this, and we're like, well, no, we understand. Just sorry, we're just doing our job here, And she said, you do know it's her right, don't you? And was kind of testing us. And I quietly left the room, and that was it, But think about that. Just think, is it her right? And I don't want to go into the dignity of humankind and all the other stuff. But here I am, a medical professional, being called in to find the broken bones of a non-human, like that's their argument, causing her to bleed to death, and that it's my moral obligation and responsibility to save her life. But the fetus that was inside, it was not anybody's moral obligation to protect or love or care for. And I don't know if you know how hard it is to get a bony fragment to stick into a uterine wall, because the uterus is pretty phenomenal. I mean, I've tried to stick needles through it before. It's very robust. It's hard to even puncture with a needle. But the amount of trauma that needs to occur to A, break a bone, B, unsheath it from skin, C, and then C, jab it into the uterine wall so it creates bleeding. That's an amazing amount of trauma. And so when she said, that is her right, I guess I just had to think. That doesn't make sense to me. And I don't think it should make sense to anybody, but all that being said is if you have a proclivity for being pro-choice or pro-abortion, just let that sink into you, because I couldn't believe that anybody would claim that at that point in time. It's just amazing to me that we were just looking for fragments of humans, and it was her right. Well, anyway, and I also had another experience. It was back in training, and there was a ultrasound tech. None of my ultrasound techs would participate in abortion at all, not abortion workups or under any circumstance. And this is back in New York, by the way. And one of which was when he was a young ultrasound tech. He was, he kind of was brought up in America, I think, and he didn't really think twice about it, and it was his new job. So he said, "Yeah, I'll go in. I'll assist in the intraoperative abortions." And he was supposed to scan the uterus as they were doing the procedure, and his job was to see if there's any parts remaining, because they did late-term abortions. And he's sitting there scanning, and he looks over into this like vacuum bucket type thing, and he saw this arm moving. An arm got ripped off, and it was moving within the bucket. And he dropped the ultrasound probe, and he just realized what he assisted in, because there's a moving arm. And he dropped the probe, and he says he remembers he just starts walking out of the operating room, and the surgeon's yelling at him, like, "Get back in here, you have to get in here," using very staunch, dense language to try to motivate him to return and do his duty as an ultrasound tech. And he told me, it was that moment that I found the Lord. And so I guess that's all I have to say. I don't have anything else to say. We let that story speak for itself. But if you claim rights, you better claim rights and think about the grave obligations you have to other people in this society before you do whatever the heck you want. And so God bless you. Get the Mass. Have a happy St. Patrick's Day, everybody. Be safe and be holy. And get the Mass and pray the daily rosary. God bless.